We are going to be talking about drinking. We're going to be talking about alcoholism and when drinking becomes a problem. Siobhán McKillen was a leader on Operation Transformation in 2014, but that's only at the start of her story. It is so great to see you again, Siobhán.
You too, Kathryn.
Oh my God, and you look a vision.
Thanks.
Everything is bright. Everything is just brilliant.
Thank you. So do you.
Thank you so much. How have you been? We're going to go back down memory lane a little bit, but you're in a really good place now.
Oh my God. Like, honestly, the strongest mentally I've ever been.
Incredible.
Like, yeah. But it took a lot of work, lots and lots of therapy. But
you're here.
Really, yeah, absolutely.
So 2014 was when you did Operation Transformation.
Yeah.
And then you gave up alcohol in March 2016.
Yeah.
It was Paddy's weekend. Now, I remember on Operation Transformation, I came to your gaff, I came to your house.
Yeah.
And at that stage, you were kind of doing, which I think what a lot of people wouldn't think of as that abnormal, but you were really stressed and probably having a bottle of wine a night with the crisps on the couch. I remember you loved the crisps as well.
Yeah.
And that was kind of your norm. That was your way to de-stress, which I think, let's call a spade, is kind of normal for a lot of people.
Very, very much so.
And we have made it normal, haven't we?
Yeah, very acceptable. You know, even this acceptable o'clock and wine o'clock and it was kind of the norm. And I even think as a society, we kind of allow a lot of kind of misbehaviour around alcohol. You know, it is the kind of acceptable going out at parties and getting drunk and making a show of yourself, which would be my personal experience, you know, and laugh the next day, you know.
You were the fun Bobby at the party.
Yeah. And it's actually hilarious because I always was fun Bobby, you know, like with or without drink I was, you know, except now I remember it, so that's always good.
It's a bonus. So what happened then that Paddy's weekend in 2016 that you said, right, was it a particular incident that happened that you just said, I can't do this anymore?
It was just the heaviest of the heaviest. Like, I was in my late 30s at that stage and the hangovers were getting worse. Yeah. Two gorgeous kids, Veda and Killian. Good morning.
Hi guys.
They're fabulous kids. And they were like 4 and 7 at the time. And there were so many mornings where I was like, why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just get up, you know, go to work, come home? I was looking at other people, comparing myself to other people, going like, why can't I just get it right, you know? And like be happy with myself, you know? But just the Paddy's weekend was just, you know, 2 or 3 very heavy nights and days, you know, like the evenings were getting a little bit earlier, the bottle of wine was opening up a bit earlier, and it was literally like, I got to stop, you know. And I would have had conversations with my husband, Ger, who's been so supportive, like really, really supportive. But he was saying to me, you know, you're going to end up alone. You'll end up alone if you continue. And, you know, there were just times where I was just like, yeah. I didn't care.
And were you, in your head, were you just a heavy drinker? Like, or did you know, like when, like, can you say the words now that you're an alcoholic?
Oh, 100%.
But were you able to back then?
No.
Okay.
No. And we would have had talks throughout the years where...
You and Ger?
Me and Ger, yeah. Where Ger would have said to me, you know, you need help or whatever. And he said, I should have maybe stepped in more. And I said, there's no way. You know, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have looked for treatment. It was only... You know, I had to make that decision for, you know, looking for help.
And were you able to function, Siobhán, during the day? Because you had the kids, you have a busy job. Like, were you drinking in the morning, or was it just getting to the end of the day so you could actually then get your wine then?
Oh, I was a highly functioning alcoholic.
Okay.
You know, so much to the point that some people wouldn't even have thought, even close friends wouldn't have thought that there was a problem, you know. So I wouldn't have drank in the morning, but I would have drank, like, say, you know, would have been Friday, Saturday and Sunday. But with alcohol, it's so insidious, you know. Then it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday evening. Then the kids were getting express washed, you know, into bed earlier.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, Saturday evening, you know, 5 o'clock, the glass of wine was coming out and it was being hidden, you know. So there was a lot of that kind of secrecy around it, you know.
So when you decided after that Paddy's weekend that you were going to get help, how did you go about it? What, like, did you have a complete breakdown? Like, was it like, oh my God, like, how have I gotten to this stage? Did you know it was coming?
I didn't know it. Like, there would have been many evenings and I would have remembered Like the morning, so say even if it was a Monday morning, a Monday evening, and I was having a bottle of wine, and the bottle of wine was turning into 2 bottles.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm up
Yeah.
at 7.
Yeah.
And I have to go into work and I have to do my day. And it just got to the stage where I was like, I actually just, I cannot do this anymore. I can't. And then just something clicked. After the Paddy's weekend, I was like, I am going to lose it all.
Where did you go for help?
I went back to therapy. So I was looking, I was looking at AA, and I thought I had such shame around it. You know, I thought that I would be judged, or, you know, and I had this kind of judgment about AA.
As in, there's a certain type of person that goes to AA?
Yeah, or if somebody saw me,
Okay.
then it would be like, oh God, you see, she's after, you know,
Yeah.
this kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So I was in therapy for many years beforehand, and I contacted my therapist again, and I was like, I need help. And she was amazing, and she said to me, come down to my house. I was seeing her in another office, whatever. She said, come down to my house, and she charged me like €20, and she says, I want you to come to me for the month, every week for the month. And that really saved me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like a guardian angel like that, because it's so difficult to find a place. I know there's a lot of talk about waiting lists of up to 6 months, and then the
Absolutely.
cost of going in somewhere private or to going into residential treatment as well. Now, I'm no expert on this at all,
Yeah.
but trying to get in anywhere,
Yeah.
apparently in Ireland, it's become such a problem.
There's such inequity in this country. You know, if you have private insurance, you could get in a couple of weeks.
Right.
You know, if you're public, it will take longer, you know, and it's disgraceful, really. You know, the healthcare should be free, you know, it should be the same for everybody, you know,
Yeah.
but it's not. You know, that's life for us, you know.
So did you end up going to AA then eventually?
No, I
Okay,
never went to
never
AA.
went.
I stayed with therapy, and I did a lot of therapy. And I just kind of did it on my own. As in, I did it on my own. I had my husband, kids, I had close friends, I had really, really good support around me. And I'm one of the lucky ones, you know, because I would have, and I'm not ashamed of saying it, like, but I would have had judgments around people that I would see, you know, maybe begging for money or you know, people on the streets, and I would have been like, you know, I'm not like them. That's different. But I was 1 or 2 drinks away from that.
And that's the reality
Yeah.
of it for so many people. You know,
Absolutely.
that it's so insidious, it can actually get in and change your world, and you don't see it coming.
No.
Can I ask you, when in your own social circles, I know your girls are really important to you,
Yeah.
your friends. What was that like? Because I think for women, it's more, I think, commonplace now for people not to drink anymore. But to going out with your friends those first couple of times. One of my best friends is an alcoholic. She's been in recovery for 15 years, 16
Wow.
years. She lives in, and the first few years when she was trying to navigate it, it was difficult. Now she's the last one to leave the party. She's the last one to
Yeah.
leave the dance floor. But it took her a long time to get there, and us trying to navigate as a social circle ourselves and as women together, it took time.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
I was actually fine. I was obviously more social now when I was drinking, because it was kind of, you know, I was partying like it was 1999 when I could get out, and especially, like you say, in the summer, the beer garden. Oh my God, like that was fantastic. I'd have a pint bottle of Bulmers and ice, and, you know, loving it all, you know. But as I was sober, nothing really changed in the respect of, okay, I wasn't going out as much, but I was okay going out. I would go later and I would leave earlier, you know, when it started getting messy.
Yeah.
So the likes of Christmas parties and stuff like that. Like, I remember somebody coming up to me of non-importance and going like, you're no crack. You know, you're no fun anymore. Like, you know, you used to have great crack. And I was like, this guy only wanted me to drink for him, you know,
Yes.
and this is what I do see. There are people who want you to have a drink, but it's just for their entertainment, you know, and I'm not there to entertain people, you know, I was just there to have a good time. So it wasn't really.
So
Yeah.
do you talk to the kids now about it, and to Ger? Like, do you say, I know those words, you couldn't say those words for a long time, but that I
Yeah.
am an alcoholic?
I would say to the kids that I have addictions, you know,
Okay.
that I would have suffered with addictions. So I'm very wary. Like, Killian is 14, Vade is 18, and I would have started the conversation early, Well, Killian probably the past year or so, because he's very curious about drinking and like he asks questions. We have a good relationship, and the same with Ada as well. I'd be very much so like, be careful, because your friends might be okay having a drink, but from my experience, I wasn't. I can't just have one drink. I had to have more. So it's really, I think it's really important to have that dialogue with your kids. It is for me anyway.
100%. And I know you are so passionate about the inequality that we have in this country at the moment in terms of access and all that. For people who are listening right now who are worried about their own drinking habits and don't really know where to start, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say the first thing is to seek help, admitting you have a problem. I think that's step one of AA. But
and that can sometimes be the hardest part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me at the start, it was more like, I'm not drinking for now. And that really helped me not to have that condition on myself for the first few years. Now I'd be like, no, I don't drink at all. And I don't think about drinking, and it's fine, But I think sometimes to have that stigma of, I can never drink again, it's very, very jarring for people, So for me to say, I'm not drinking for now was really, it really, really helped me, But there's, to look for help, absolutely. If you have access to therapy, 100%, I would advocate for therapy all day long, But obviously, if you can't get low cost counselling, it is a money, issue. AA, I've seen plenty of research and really good experiences of people in AA and recovering, because it's a community. There's another wonderful community called Better Together, and they're recovery, they're peer-led communities, and they're online. So, if you didn't feel like you wanted to go in person, there's online services there where they do like one-to-ones and
amazing
and group sessions, and it's all free.
Okay.
So there's things like that. And it's also about having a bit of compassion with yourself, because, it's a difficult terrain to navigate, and there is still stigma around it, when you say to people like, I have an issue with alcohol, it's almost like, pear clutching, and but it's a problem in Ireland, like it's absolutely prevalent.
Well, I was telling you, my brother's home from Australia, and his girlfriend was with him, and she was here for a couple of weeks. She couldn't get over that everything revolves around it. Every little thing in Ireland revolves around it, and that's something that we're all trying to change, I suppose. Also, just to say, for anybody who is listening, drinkaware.ie is also very good for information and for help as well. You are an absolute legend,
and so are you, Kathryn.
I'm so happy that you're happy, that you're content, your beautiful family, and you are doing so well. It's amazing to see you again, and thanks for coming in and being so honest, because I think it's a really important conversation to have. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a million for having me, Kathryn.
Not at all.